You're going straight ahead. Then you got a 90-degree turn. And that's when it hit.
Trapped in a West Virginia coal mine, 12 men struggle to survive as friends and family anxiously wait.
Well, by now there is not much hope.
Their fate is sealed by delays.
Why ain't they going in there and getting them in after what we told them?
And confusion.
Miscommunication! I feel their hearts just kind of drop.
For the first time, some answers and painful memories.
I could hear the wheeze of a man trying to breathe.
I thought he was just there asleep, and I screamed before he could wake up.
As we reveal what happened inside the Sago mine disaster.
Time is running out for us. We have not heard anything from the outside.
My dad was the coal miner. My father-in-law is a coal miner. I have brothers-in-law that's coal miners, uncles that are coal miners. It's just been, that's the way of life.
It just gets in your blood. First day you're in there, you know you're going to be there forever.
Underneath the Appalachian Mountains, men labor every day. Danger is a part of life when you're running coal. But after risk, there is reward.
God has blessed us in this little valley of Sago, here along this beautiful river. The time that if a car went by, everybody ran outside just to see it.
It's a small town, and everybody knows everybody. People are really friendly here. You don't really have to worry about a lot of bad things happening around here.
January 2nd, 2006. Miners are returning to work after the holidays. Jackie Weaver is starting his 25th year working underground.
A lot of companies take Monday off for the holiday. So he was thinking, well, gee, that should have been a holiday, because Justin didn't have school and I didn't have work. So, you know, it wasn't fair that we got to stay home and he didn't.
David Lewis entered mining 2 years ago so that his wife could finish her university degree.
David was the kind of person who liked to be outside. He didn't do it because he loved it. He did it because it was a way to support his girls, and it was a way for him to make a life for us. He always made coffee every morning, and he would make extra coffee. So when I got up, all I had to do was put it in the microwave and warm it up. He just had this way that he laced his boots, and I can still hear that.
David Lewis and Jackie Weaver are part of the Two Left crew, traveling through a maze of tunnels toward the furthest working section in the Sago mine. The baby of their crew is 26-year-old Randall McCloy.
My dad was old enough to be Randall's dad, so I think my dad probably kind of looked out for him. My mom would always give a piece of pound cake, put it in my dad's lunchbox, and a piece for my dad and a piece for Randall as well, so she looked out for Randall too.
10 minutes behind the Two Left crew, the One Left crew drives toward their section. Like many miners, they try not to think too hard about the risks.
Go as hard as you can go, as quick as you can go, and it's as dangerous as it can be.
It's in the back of your mind, but you don't think about it. That when you go in there, you know you might not ever come back out. If you ever thought about that, you wouldn't even go in, you'd quit.
You're actually cutting coal. It's virgin territory that nobody's ever seen before in billions of years. And you don't know what you're going to run into.
There is always the invisible hazard of methane, a gas occurring naturally within the coal seam. Deep in Sago mine, early on January 2nd, methane is building to a dangerous level inside a recently closed and sealed off section. One spark could ignite it. Outside, a storm is engulfing Sago.
There's a loud clap of thunder that woke Aaron and I up, and I was like, wow. It's just lightning and thunder and raining.
Raining very hard.
Because it was really hitting the ground hard out there. Never seen anything like it.
You're going straight ahead, and then you got a 90-degree turn. Throw the switch for us to turn in there and go up towards our section. And that's when it hit.
Concussion of wind and dust and debris and heat.
I'm getting hit in the back with rocks and pieces of coal.
They took my hat and my glasses.
Kind of braced myself, ready to die, because I thought I was. I thought we was dead right there. I was just waiting for any second for something to fly through there and tear my head plumb off.
It really didn't strike me what happened. And Roger Perry, never forget this. After it all quit blowing, he said, "And the mine blew." Do you remember hearing him saying that? He said, "Mine blew."
Somebody said it.
He screamed. Roger Perry screamed. He said the mine just blowed up.
It's not known exactly what sparked the explosion in the sealed-off section, but it occurs at the precise moment that lightning strikes Sago. Thick smoke quickly fills the mine, followed by poisonous carbon monoxide.
Every man there screamed, "We need to get to the fresh air." It's my job to try to keep all the men together and try to get us out of there as quickly and safely as possible.
Owen Jones, the foreman of the one left crew, leads his men to a mine tunnel where the air is still clear. Their thoughts soon turn to the fate of the two left crew.
When we got over into the fresh air, the first thing I thought of was those other guys. I thought, wonder if it's this bad or worse up there.
Owen is particularly worried. His brother, Jesse Jones, is a miner in the other crew. He tells his men that he is going to try to find them.
And they all tried to get me to go with them, but I said, no, I got a brother trapped up here, so I said, I'm gonna see what I can do.
We tried and tried and tried, and finally, he said, no, you guys go on. He says, I've got to go for my brother. So, as bad as we hated to, we went on.
Help for the other miners is over 3 hours away. Over an hour has passed since the explosion. Most of West Virginia is still on vacation and oblivious to the events at Sago, including the rescue teams the mine company is trying to contact. Nothing has been heard from the two left crew. Deep in the mine, they have survived the explosion.
In a matter of seconds, their whole world turned upside down. Some of them probably realized what was going on. Some of them probably had no idea what was going on.
Ron Hickson trains miners in emergency procedures at the Federal Mining Academy.
Escape is paramount. We try to teach guys to get out at all costs.
The crew tries to ride to safety in their mine vehicle. But debris blocks the tracks. They could, in theory, walk around the rubble, but the smoke is so thick, none of them can see that. They head back to look for another way out.
Is everyone with me, fellows? Yeah, we're here. Put your self-rescuers on.
The miners don special breathing units, called self-rescuers, to protect them from poisonous air.
They use an SR-100, which is a self-contained self-rescuer. The unit provides 1 hour of emergency oxygen for them to rescue themselves and get themselves out of the mine.
Some of the crew struggle to get their breathing units working.
Fear does a lot to people. Your mind plays games with you. You think you're not getting enough air where you're actually getting air. Maybe not like you're used to. Some of them probably panicked.
4 of the crew's self-rescuers don't appear to function. Without breathable air, the men might not make it through the smoke to safety. And with the smoke getting worse, escape seems impossible. On ground level, mine staff has yet to make any contact with the 2 left crew.
They were screaming on the mine telephones, trying to get a hold of the other section.
The phones in the 2 left section have been knocked out by the blast. The miners are now cut off from the outside world and are depending on others to rescue them.
If we could have just communicated with these guys, if we could just somehow talk to them, told them they had a way out, they would have come on out. It was kind of a helpless feeling you couldn't even contact.
A friend of mine called me and asked me if I knew of anything happening at the mines, and I said, no, why? What'd you hear? And he said, well, I'm sorry, Lou, to be able to call you and get you all upset.
And I asked Mom what did he want, what was wrong, and she said, something broke down at the mines. I didn't know what it was. So then I went back into the room and started playing with my stuff. And she was making breakfast, and I didn't believe her, really. So I walked back in there and said, Mom, what's the matter? And she said, there's an explosion.
I called and told them who I was, and I knew Owen and Jesse was both working, and I told them I was Owen Jones and Jesse Jones's mother. Can you tell me anything that's happening down there? They finally told me Owen was outside, and I said, well, what about Jesse? They didn't answer me. I knew right then Jesse was still in the mines then.
Jesse!
Owen and other mine staff are trying to find his brother's crew. They get close to the 2 left section, but run into thick smoke.
Anybody on 2 left?
Without proper breathing apparatus, they can get no closer. Less than 1,900 feet from the trapped men, they finally turn back.
It still bothers me. There's not a day in my life don't go by wishing 100 different things that we could have done or maybe should have done, but you can't do it if you ain't got the right equipment to do it with. No matter how bad you want to go, if you got other family, your wife, kids, you got to think of them too.
An hour after the explosion at Sago, the miners' relatives rushed to the scene.
I was scared. I was terrified. I didn't know what to think. The only thing that consumed me was my uncle. Is he okay?
I actually, on the way over to Sago, thought, you know, they would probably already be out of there by the time we got there. I could just hear Jack saying, well, what are you doing here? Where's Justin?
Finally, Owen come out, but he wouldn't tell me nothing much. It don't look good. He said it don't look good, Mom.
The 2 left crew are alive, but they can find no way to escape. Following their training, the miners barricade themselves in.
When you set up a barricade, you know, that's the last resort. You've given up chances of getting out on your own power, and you rely on somebody coming in and rescuing you.
The crew sets up the barricade at the coalface, the furthest point they can reach from the thick smoke in the main tunnel.
The purpose of it is to block off the harmful gases coming up toward you and keep them from coming to the area that you decide to barricade in.
Now short of oxygen units, the men in the crew share what they have.
Knowing my dad, I mean, he probably would have been comforting everybody, saying, it'll be all right, things will be all right.
At 11 a.m., mine rescue teams called by the company begin to arrive at Sago. It has taken 4 hours to raise them. Other teams are rushing to the area from across the state and beyond.
One of the first things I noticed was there was some smoke coming out of one of the openings. Naturally, we start asking questions about the mine and get ourselves ready to enter as quick as possible.
But federal and state officials allow no one to enter the mine. Working with the coal company, they now call the shots. The rescue teams wait above ground. Mine owners ICG declined to participate in this film.
I'm thinking, why ain't they going in there and getting them in after what we told them? Right. Told them where we made it to. That's why I'm thinking, what's wrong with these people?
Officials are concerned that a fire may be raging inside the mine and that another explosion may be brewing. Levels of carbon monoxide, CO, emerging from the mine are being constantly monitored.
Rising CO is an indication of a fire. The CO had risen to a point where they were even evacuating buildings on the surface. So there was a big concern as to what was going on in the mine.
The need to ensure the safety of the rescue teams informs the decisions being taken, as West Virginia's governor discovers when he arrives at Sago.
There was a caution of how they would let these people proceed. And I think the federal government, rightfully so, probably thought that this is what we had to do.
They wouldn't let these guys go in because they was afraid that the mine was going to blow up again and kill the rescue teams. That's exactly what the federal inspector told me.
The crew who escaped from the mine earlier that morning watch in increasing frustration. Barricaded 2.5 miles inside the mine, the two left crew are following their training.
They give the miners a sticker to put inside of their hat. It tells them to barricade and listen, then signal by pounding on the roof bolts. And then rest 15 minutes and repeat. And that if they hear the shots, then they know that they've been located.
For several hours, the miners signal their position. But nobody hears them. The specialized listening equipment required never leaves its Pittsburgh base.
One more time.
Federal officials decided it would take too long to get up and running. The miners know that time is not on their side. Their barricade will not protect them from the carbon monoxide for long.
CO is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. It incapacitates you. Mild cases would cause you headaches, dizziness, and things like that. Severe cases, it would be unconsciousness. You would pass out. It just would have you to the point where you could not react to your environment around you and to what you're doing.
A race has begun between the rescuers and the gas. With no sign of rescue, the trapped miners think of their families.
Jack always had notes. He was a note taker. Always had, I don't know, half a dozen or so of these in his note or in his bucket. And I would say probably, you know, if any other families got notes on papers about this size, they probably got the paper from my husband. And he said the fumes were getting terrible and everybody was still partially okay.
My his note read, "Lily, I love you. If someone find this, please give this to my wife. I love you. We have air right now, but the smoke is bad. Tell my mother I love her, and kids, love Dad.
At 5:30 in the evening, rescue teams are finally cleared to enter the mine, 11 hours after the explosion.
The mine rescue teams have to proceed very cautiously to avoid triggering another explosion. Will all have to be done by hand. That's one of the aspects of mine rescue that makes this process so slow.
We know what we need to do. I really didn't think about anything other than trying to find the missing miners.
Invite Jesus to become Lord of my life, to rule and reign in my heart from this day forward.
I could actually hear, my dad saying, boys, we got to do some praying.
Please send your Holy Spirit to those men, they all had kids and grandkids and stuff, and I'm more sure they was all worried about them, and, in Jesus' name I pray, amen. Amen.
Dad loved his grandkids. Oh, he picked on them something ferocious. He'd get them down, wrestle with them inside the house, and Mom would get upset with them and tell them, if you're going to do that, you got to take it outside.
My dad, he was looking forward to grandbabies. He probably thought, I haven't even got to see my grandbabies yet.
The air is bad. I don't know how long we can last. Time is running out for us. We have not heard anything from the outside.
Okay, stop.
The rescue teams progress carefully into the mine.
One team moves 1,000 foot, stops, establishes communications, ventilation. The other team moves up 1,000 foot. It's like going in a house. You check every room to the right of you, you check all the rooms to the left of you.
He said, I'll see you in heaven, that's for sure. And then he put in there for Justin, Justin, you'll always be my best buddy. They always had what they call deer camp.
Hunting was long and we didn't usually see anything. And fishing always caught more on him. And they were all this big.
He talked about how much he loved me. He thanked me for being a good wife. And he says, I want you to know until the very end, all I could think about was you and those beautiful 3 girls. I thought about David being in this dark place. We've all wanted something really bad, and we've wanted it so bad that we could just feel it. And then there comes a point in time where you're not gonna get it. And so I think that David wrote me the letter when he accepted his fate.
20 hours after the explosion, rescuers are over 1.5 miles underground, more than halfway to the 2 left section.
1.8 oxygen.
Above ground, a crew has been drilling a narrow hole down to where officials think the trapped miners might be. 23 hours after the blast, the drill punches through to the 2 left section. There is no sign of the miners, and gas readings from below suggest the air quality is too poor to sustain human life.
The command center was still, trying to keep things moving, but I'm sure people were very disheartened.
At the local church, the miners' families have spent a sleepless night waiting for news.
I left the church and went down to the car, and I put in one of David's favorite CDs. And I was laying there wrapped in this blanket, and I just had this feeling come over me, and I started to cry because I knew that that's when David's spirit had crossed over, and I knew that he was gone.
Throughout the second day, rescue teams edge closer to the 2 left section. At 5 p.m., 2 miles inside the mine, they find wreckage.
And I'm walking and being very cautious. There's debris laying all over the place. And as my light panned across the heading in the entry, I saw 2 feet.
We're listening in the command center. I think somebody may have came out in the hallway and said they found one of them.
He was cold and clammy. It was pretty evident to the team there that he did not survive the explosion.
The dead man is fire boss Terry Helms, whose job carrying out safety checks meant he wasn't with the 2 left crew at the time of the blast.
Well, by now there is not much hope, but in the tiny West Virginia coal town of Tolsmansville, they still continue to hope and to wait.
One of the sons, one of the little boys, he kept saying, I think my daddy's okay. My daddy's okay.
I do recall seeing lots of people crying, and I tried to be positive. I felt very strongly. I almost knew that they were going to come out of there.
Your heart's breaking because you know that every hour is not helping us at all, and the chances are much slimmer that his daddy's going to be alive.
"40 hours after an explosion trapped the miners, rescue teams embark on the final push.
Still high levels of CO, yes.
A fresh air base is set up close to the 2 left section, where the backup team will await news. A forward team of 6 men heads in.
Guys knew what was happening, knew what we were there for.
As they enter the 2 left section, the rescue team discovers the crew's abandoned vehicle and the empty cases of their oxygen units.
We had high hopes at that point that they were still alive.
The team hurries deeper into the section, forced to stretch to the limit their line of communication back to the fresh air base.
Communications went from 9 room, from a walkie-talkie, to the mouth of 58 switch, to another walkie-talkie, to a cable reel phone, to another cable reel phone, from that phone to the surface.
Above ground, people gather around the command center.
People were standing in the hallway, doors were open, and there was a squawk box, if you will, or speaker. The rescue operations, they would report back to the clear air station, which we would report back to the command post would come across the speaker.
After 41 hours, the rescue teams have almost reached the coalface at the end of the 2 left section.
We thought we heard something and we stopped. Then we heard a moan. So we took off running. There was a curtain hung across the mouth of one of the entries.
As soon as I come out of that crosscut, I could hear the snore or hear the wheeze of a man trying to breathe. It's like it just feels like all the blood is in your head. I mean, it's just like a rush that you can't even describe. I mean, because you know you're there now. You don't know what you're going to see as soon as you tear that curtain down. You don't know whether there's going to be all the miners waiting to come to you. We went up to the crosscut. We tore the corner of the barricade down and we charged in. Guys were sitting along the coal ribs. Same situation I've seen in dinner holes when people have been taking dinner in a coal mine. And the boss walk in and say, okay, it's time to get up, let's go load coal. But that wasn't the case.
I didn't have a radio. I was screaming through my breathing apparatus. And I was saying, they're over here, they're over here, they're alive.
This instinctive, joyful reaction is quickly relayed back along the chain of communication.
We're at the fresh air base. And the words that we hear that came through the communication system was, "We found them alive." That's all we heard. At that point, we jump up and we start screaming. I mean, we're really excited.
I mean, as soon as I saw them, I knew that most of them were dead. But I'd heard life.
The team captain and 2 men went right to, turned out to be Mr. McCloy, who was trying to breathe. I remember just screaming at him, hollering at him, trying to tell him, to stay with us, and tell him that we were there.
Randall McCloy is the only one of the miners still breathing, and he's fading fast. Ron Hickson runs out to radio for backup.
Transmission that I thought I relayed was, we have all the miners accounted for, we have 1 alive, and we need help, and we need help now.
But with their communications stretched thin, the backup team does not receive the first half of Ron's message, that there is only 1 alive. All they hear is the last part.
The call comes over, "We need help, and we need help now." We're going up the track at a real fast pace under oxygen, thinking that we're going up to bring live persons out.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
The initial excited report that the miners are alive has reached the command center, and it quickly spreads.
We were sitting inside the church, getting ready to have a meeting, and a woman standing in the door. I have no idea who she was. Only thing I know, she had a pair of glasses on and had a white coat. Her cellular phone rung, and she screamed out that they found them and they're all alive.
Did you hear what? Somebody just all at once said, "They're coming out, did you hear? They're coming out." And everybody started hollering and was excited and rushing out the door.
Thank you, Jesus! The church out!
Before I even got to the church, the bells were ringing, and you could hear everyone yelling, praising God and thanking God for his miracle. And you walk in and you see your mother with the happiest day of her life. You think that she just had a kid. I mean, the happiness that a mother would feel, the expression on a mother's face.
They're home! Thank God! They made it here!
And then they come and say, "Governor, do you want to go down and see the men coming out?" I says, "Absolutely. I want to let them know their families have been waiting and praying for 40-some hours." So I start getting my mining clothes on to go down to the face.
Underground, the backup team has arrived at the barricade to help rescue the miners.
I remember I pull the curtain back, and I look to my right, and I see the miners, and I think I froze for a couple of seconds because I didn't see any of them moving.
I can remember hearing Eugene hollering, trying to wake him up.
I thought he was just there asleep, and I was screaming for him to wake up. But it just didn't happen.
Other members of the mine rescue team are working desperately to save Randall.
I mean, he was hanging on. If we don't get him somewhere quick, we're not sure what's going to happen. 3.
Barely breathing, they carry Randall half a mile back to the fresh air base, then put him on a ride out of the mine. Only then do they stop to catch their breath.
Guys ask us where the other guys were at. And it was basically like, what other guys? There are no other guys. There was only 1 alive. That's the first time I've become aware that there was a miscommunication.
I think I could try for a million years and I can never tell you how it felt.
I've been on the team since 1989. I've been in mine fires and explosions. This is the first live man that we've brought out. I understand
how happy everybody must have felt if they thought that was the communication coming through. But anytime we call out like that, messages are always checked and double-checked and triple-checked. Repeat what you said. Did I hear you right? Do you have 12 men alive? Do you have 1 man alive? You know, what is the exact situation? That never happened.
The command center finally understands. There are not 12 survivors. There is only 1 alive.
I was back in one of the rooms trying to get my mining clothes on to go down and walk down the slope to meet him. And they said, wait. He says, Governor, wait a minute, we've got some changes here. It's not what we think. And I said, well, what is it? Well, no one could tell me.
This time, the command center is determined that no word gets out until the rescue teams are debriefed and everyone is certain of the facts.
And then, you know, time goes by, an hour goes by, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what are the people thinking down at the church?
They're all alive. They announced it over the church that they're all alive.
They did.
Yeah. It's her daddy, Jesse Jones. Her daddy is Jesse Jones.
1 a.m. Officials at Sago delay any announcement as they send a team of medics underground to verify the miners are dead. But at the Sago church, families have been told nothing of the miscommunication.
I hadn't brushed my teeth because I didn't have a toothbrush. And I found some butterscotch candy, and I put the candy in my mouth. And I said to my mom, I said, I wanted my breath to be fresh because I'm going to kiss his lips off when I see him.
There's these cookies that Dad really liked, and they had frosting on top of them. Dad loved them. I grabbed one of them when I heard they were coming. I was holding on to it. I was trying not to squeeze it too hard. It wasn't looking too good when it was all done and over with.
We were getting stories like they're walking over, and, you know, I could see my husband and Junior Hamner, you know, doing that. They would, you know, say, no, I'm not going to ride in an ambulance. I'm walking, and they'd have done it, you know.
At 2:45 a.m., Ben Hatfield, the head of the mine company, approaches the church. It is 3 hours since the miners of the 2 left crew were discovered.
At first, we just saw 15, 20 state troopers. And that's when we all kind of thought, something's not right. If they're bringing in all this backup, they've got something to say that they don't think we're gonna like.
Then Ben Hatfield from ICG read, I guess, an official statement and told us that there was only 1 survivor.
Can you describe some of the reactions inside?
Reaction's bad right now, really bad. A lot of screaming and hollering.
Shock. Just like, somebody had just knocked all the air out of you.
Mixed communications is what they're blaming it on. Mixed communications. Can you go through that?
And then tell us our families are coming out alive, and then one of them comes out and the rest of them's dead. That's not even right.
This one man that was standing there next to me, he said, ma'am, I'm going to tell you, you better get your family and get out of here. You don't know what's going to happen here. So we left then.
David told us 30 minutes ago that the miners agreed to come up here to the church instead of going to the hospital first. Now, how could they agree if they didn't know?
If they're dead, how can they agree to come up
when
here?
they told us that.
Justin, thankfully, was still in bed asleep. So instead of waking him up, I decided we'd just wait till we got there and tell him face to face. It was hard, because we woke him up out of a nice sound sleep thinking, you know, he was going to see his daddy in a little while. And when he woke up, the first thing he said, where's Dad?
Mom said there was a mistake. And I said, Mom is Daddy. I couldn't bring myself to say the word dead. He was Superman.
This is why I don't even believe in God anymore. because you see your mother just go from something that she believes so much in to where now she doesn't even, she just experienced 3 hours later her son had been killed.
These miners lived. These miners tried to do everything that they could possibly do to survive. And time killed them. They were in that atmosphere too long. We couldn't get to them in time.
There's just a part in my heart for Jesse. And it always will be.
Gentlemen, we do thank you.
Amen. God bless you, man.
Randall McCloy, the miner found close to death, is still recovering.
Well, I try to leave out all the gory details and stuff like that because I don't like to look at them in that light and in that way. Mm-hmm. You know, I just like to picture them saved and in heaven and stuff like that.
But Randall's miraculous survival meant that the crew's story would be told.
And by Jesus, we can onward and allow.
He wrote of those 41 hours, concluding, "Some drifted off into a deep sleep. Jackie Weaver reassured me that if it was our time to go, then God's will would be fulfilled."
These were ordinary men doing a hard job. Ordinary men who lived in small-town America, making an honest living.
These men were men who went underground every day to support their families. So you could turn on a light in your kitchen and you have electricity. That's why these men went to work. There was an unwritten bond between those men. It was one for all and all for one.
Believing that he too would perish, Randall had also left a final message for his family. He wrote, "Anna, I love you so much. To my son, trust in the Lord. To my daughter, stay sweet. I'm not that afraid. Don't grieve long."